Today, I'm here with Nee. She is an Etsy seller who has seen huge success in 2023. And I'm so excited to show you guys what she's done, who she is, how she's made it happen in a real practical way. Nee, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Dylan, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And I thought we would just dive right in so people could kind of get to know you, your background, where you even started. Let's talk a little bit about, how you even ended up on Etsy. So what were you doing before Etsy? And then when did you start your shop?
Yeah, so I started my shop last year in August, and at the time I was working as a project manager for about 8 years at the time, going on 10 years, and I just felt like I needed a change. Like in my life, I had been thinking about opening a business for a long time. I didn't know what product to sell. I kept going back to Etsy, and for me, I think the thought of it was like just overwhelming to open your own business, all the things that you had to do. So I kind of like held off on those reasons, but I noticed that I kept going back to it because I would be at work and I'd be daydreaming about like, man, it would be great to work from home on my own time. And knowing myself, I'm a very creative person. I got a degree in graphic design many years ago and I had never really put it to use. And I always wondered in the back of my mind, like I would do, design stuff for other people just for fun. And I always wondered like what would happen if I actually dedicated myself and applied myself and just did what I loved. And, the term starving artist, my parents wanted me to become a doctor or a lawyer, and I didn't become any of that, which is totally fine. I know we all had our own path, but I think for me, I always went back to like wanting to own my own time and having that financial freedom. So finally took the plunge last year and opened my Etsy shop in August. And I had been doing research for a long time. And so I came across print on demand. So that's where I got my start, the print on demand category, because I felt, it's kind of overwhelming to ship my own products. Let me just see if I could ease my foot in the door by just designing. And that's what I'm good at, and have like a provider take care of the rest. So that's where I started, was with print on demand.
Print on demand. And now you're cranking out orders every day, shipping them from your house. Wow, what a transformation. And I didn't know your background was graphic design. I didn't even know that, but now it makes sense. The eye that you have. I'm curious, you started with print on demand. You chose that because was it less intimidating maybe, or why did you choose that?
Yeah, it was less intimidating. I feel like I can design. I feel like I can put something in Canva or Photoshop. And at the time I was focused really on like mental health, self-love, affirmations. I love reading positive quotes, and I just wanted to like spread more joy, especially after the pandemic. I feel like a lot of us needed more positivity. So I felt like I could do that. And like you said, it was less intimidating just to be in charge of that process and not have to worry about the operational side,
Yes.
at least for the shipping and all that.
Yeah, let me remember. You had sweatshirts. Did you have t-shirts, hats, totes?
Yeah.
Was that it?
So interestingly, my very first product that I ever designed was a tank top, because it was in the summer and it was hot, and I had a lot of friends that were working out and they wanted to, look nice for the summer. So I figured, let me just start with like a tank top. And that was my very first product. And it had like "Make Today Beautiful" with a lotus, and on the back was just like affirmations. And so that became a bestseller, my very first product, which I'm very thankful for. I know that doesn't typically happen on your very first product.
Now, is that still in your shop?
It is not. I'm thinking about bringing it back though, for sure.
Limited
Yeah.
edition or something.
Yeah, limited edition. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. Was that the first product that sold then?
Yes. Yeah, the very first product that I ever listed in my shop. Yeah.
And how did that feel? Were you like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do now?" Or did you feel excited, or were you apprehensive? How'd you feel about your first sale?
Yeah, I felt really excited because I wasn't sure if I wanted to actually announce on social media that I was opening an Etsy shop, or if I wanted my friends to know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, should I just announce it and share with them what I've been up to? Because I had been quiet for a long time. And so when I posted it, I did get a good amount of support. Luckily, my first week. So I got my first sale a few days later, and really good response from the ladies.
So your parents, they wanted you to be like a doctor or a lawyer. Did they know that you had started on Etsy?
No, actually, they just found out a couple months ago.
No way. After you're doing like nearly, at that point, you're doing nearly 10 grand per month.
Yeah, I think it was last month that they had found out. So my parents and I, we live in different states. They thought I had been working as a project manager this whole time. We had a lot to catch up on, and I was like, no, I actually quit my job. But they were thankfully very supportive. And growing up in an Asian background, I think parents traditionally, my parents are traditional, they just want to know that you're doing well, that you're taken care of, and that you're comfortably living. And so that's all they wanted.
Yes. Oh my goodness. What a fun conversation, I bet. And so a little bit about you, I'm curious because a lot of people think when they're getting started on Etsy, they're going to have to be like the face of the brand all over and like on, stories and things. Are you more introverted or extroverted?
I feel like I'm definitely more introverted. I feel like I do get my energy and a recharge by just having some alone time, but I do enjoy like social settings and being a smaller group settings. For me, that was like, I think one of my limiting beliefs. I don't know if anyone can relate. It's like, you know what? I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have like a huge social media following. Like, will people buy from me? And so that was kind of like one of the reasons I was hesitant is like, can I really make this work? And so it wasn't until I kind of put all that aside and just kind of like had stronger reasons as to why I needed to make it work that kind of like overpowered the other reasons that I was like, you know what, let's just put all that aside. It's not about what other people think. It's about if it makes you happy, you know? And so, yeah, I'm definitely an introvert.
Yeah.
I think that just goes to show like it doesn't really matter your personality or if you have a huge following. Like if people want your product, they're not going to think about is this person an extrovert? I'll buy from them. Or is this person this personality type? I'll buy from them.
And I noticed like with your social media, you're doing great on it, but you don't have to be on camera telling like, here's this order going out.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that, daily showing up, face of the brand, and you're building a huge, I mean, how many people did you sell to last month? Was it over 1,000?
Yeah, I think it was like 1,300, a little over 1,300, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I hadn't realized it until I looked back like yesterday because I feel like with everything going on, things are just behind the scenes, chaotic and hectic in the best way. So I'm just trying to like, keep up with the growth and all of that.
So I'm curious, what was your why for really going all in with Etsy?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm very purpose driven.
Mhm.
And I feel like I always have to constantly grow. So if I'm doing the same thing over and over again, I get kind of bored easily. And I feel like the creator in me, like I love to innovate and create things. I feel like it's just, I want to create like purpose and meaning in my life where I was like, I saw the route I was going down and I was like, I can't do this for the next 4 to 5 years. Working at my full-time job, even though my boss was amazing and the pay was amazing and my coworkers were amazing. That's what made it so much harder because you get comfortable, right? And I didn't want to get complacent. And I noticed I was so unhappy because I wasn't growing in the direction that I wanted to grow. I wasn't challenging myself in the way that I wanted to. So it was just, getting out of my comfort zone. And I really just wanted to like own my own time and have that financial freedom. I would always be so like envious of like these boss women that are like have their own businesses and they could like bring their laptop to the beach or work wherever they wanted. And I always believed other people could do it, but I was like, why can't I believe it when it comes to like myself? And I think it was that moment where I realized, why not me? And I think I was like, okay, I got to put my foot down. I got to make that decision and just never look back.
Yeah, you really did. You quit your job. When was it? In the spring, right?
Yeah, it was March, I want to say early March, so about 6 months ago.
Yeah. And what happened when you went all in on Etsy? When you made the decision to leave your job, what happened to your business?
Wow. It was definitely, I think the first few weeks, I was definitely in shock a little bit. Like I woke up thinking I had work in the morning. I had like this alarm clock in my head for so many years that kept on going off. But I think after that, I was like, okay, I have all this time. I'm going to dedicate like 24/7, like every second I can spare just to focus on my business, optimizing everything, optimizing my shop. And I'm still very much in the learning phase of my business. I think that was barely 6 months in when I had quit my job. So I still had a lot to learn. And it was very risky, but very good decision that I made. So I just felt a lot of weight on my shoulders because, my husband and I, we bought a house and we used to live in California. So we moved out of state, less than 2 years ago. So I felt I have to make this work, and it was a lot of pressure, but it definitely paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you replaced your income, right?
Yeah, a few months later, I was able to do that. Very thankful for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I am curious for you. So a lot of people think, okay, well, she had great success, but this is like a unicorn situation. She just got lucky, or she picked the right product, or she's somehow lucky. How much of your success do you think you equate to work ethic, and how much do you equate to luck?
I feel like just like anyone starting an Etsy shop, I really struggled. Like, and it's a lot of things you don't talk about behind the scenes that no one else sees. They see something when it's a bestseller and they see it when it works, but they don't see all the failures and all the trial and errors and all those things that happen behind the scene. So I feel like with me first starting with print on demand and now adding like handmade and digital, I'm constantly testing new products. And there's so many things I tested that didn't make it. And I feel like it's just, you have to keep going. You have to kind of like, fail, but fail fast is something that I always think about. Like, I don't think of it as a failure, but learn from it. Like, what didn't work about that? Do more of what works, listen to your customers. What are they responding more to? I think that's really important, and constantly asking for feedback. And so I think going back to the unicorn situation, I feel like that's something I thought in the back of my head when listening to other Etsy sellers on YouTube. I was like, that could not be me, And I would not think that would be me, to be honest, if you told me 6 months ago, because like, I feel like in person, I'm kind of anxious, like shy, nervous, and like, I don't like to show my face on social media. So that's a huge step for me. So if I can do it, I feel like anyone can do it. And it's not like I'm an exception, like anyone can really do it if they just never give up. They're consistent, and you're constantly applying more of what works instead of like reinventing the wheel. I think it's really important to have like a coach or mentor, someone that could, walk you through all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm crying. I'm so proud of you. You have no idea. Like, seeing your updates.
Oh no, you're gonna make me cry too. I'm holding back tears at certain trying to, it's okay though, they're happy tears.
Wow.
It's like very emotional for me to be talking about it, because it's like things happen so fast that you don't have time to process everything. You're just kind of like, okay, what's next? And then before you know it, you're like, I've arrived, but not really, because I still have more to go.
Right.
So it's just like, I don't know. There's so many things going in the back of my mind, like spiritually, like, like I'm a very spiritual person, and I feel like nothing happens by accident. I don't know if other people are, but I always believe that, because I used to have the mentality, a lot of what it takes to succeed, I'm learning in having a good Etsy shop, is like your mindset. What you say to yourself, and sometimes you're not always gonna have belief. You're gonna have some doubt, but learning to, move forward despite the way that you're feeling, I
Right.
think, is something that's so challenging, but you learn to like overcome that, and you become stronger, and you push forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And out of, like, I've worked with so many people, like at this
Yeah.
point, over 1,400 people. And like, something that I noticed about you, in that I think that's made you very successful, is that
Yeah.
you just keep stepping forward. Like, you keep pushing out products. Like, you don't, if one product doesn't hit, you don't think, okay, I'm not going to make new products for a while. I'll just stick with what I have. You keep going. You're like, something else, something else. Like, you just don't stop. And it's consistent, it's steady, but you're not like manic about it. You're very steady and steadily putting out new things. And I think out of, anyone who I've worked with, you probably have put out the most number of new products. And I think that has allowed you to become a market leader in so many different areas. There's not just one product that's driving your success, it's the mix. So just for people, like, how many listings do you have in your shop?
Like maybe like 250, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
250.
So you didn't, see a little bit of success at 50 listings and then kind of stop there and sit with that. You kept going, which I think, a lot of people do get a little complacent, whether they're seeing success or not. It's hard for people to be consistent nowadays, it seems like.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we get discouraged, and that's totally normal. But
Mhm.
the more, I feel like the faster you fail, I mean, it depends on looking at it instead of failure, looking at it as just a little part of your journey that you're learning from. Like, okay, that didn't work. Let's just go to the next. And I think learning to not take things personally, I think for me was like a huge part of myself, because I wanted to be a perfectionist. And I realized if you're always perfecting something, you won't be able to finish it. Like, you're always going to go back and want to tweak it, right? The perfectionist in you. And perfection doesn't lead to happiness. You're always going to be unhappy if you're like thinking something is like not perfect. But like, I think that once I switched my mindset from like wanting things to be perfect to just wanting to get it out there so someone could see it. Because they may very well love your first iteration and you just never know. And just take that feedback and like, constantly improve. Like I still list some things where I'm like, okay, I'm not totally sure. Like it's a new product. Every time I list a new product, I do get a little bit nervous because I wonder how it's going to be received. So there is that little bit of like anxiety still, but I keep going, and I think that's really important, is to just get it out there.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, when you feel like your first iteration might not be the thing, but it might actually be the thing for other people. Yeah. I'm curious, a lot of people think Etsy is becoming super saturated since 2020. Everyone started an Etsy shop when they were home. Were you in that last group of successful Etsy shops? Or, do you feel like a new shop could still take off in 2023?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started towards past summer of last year, and I feel like there's always going to be some type of competition on Etsy, maybe some categories more than others. But I feel like if you have the opportunity to like design a product or come out with a product idea where you can like resolve your customers' pain points or what they're looking for, or maybe do it slightly better than the competition, I feel like there's always an opportunity. It just depends on how you're looking at it, and doing your research, I feel, is very important. And for me, I think part of that is like overthinking. Etsy's so saturated. I don't want to get started. Then you're never going to start. And you don't know until you try, right? Maybe this product is saturated, but I think it comes down to just seeing if there's an opportunity to improve upon what's already there. And then also maybe getting feedback from your audience, like what are they looking for? And some of the trends that you see on Etsy or off Etsy is like Etsy's kind of like the last plate for trends to be like adopted. So it's actually even better if you come out with an idea that's not on Etsy. Some of my bestsellers are now is like inspiration that I got outside of Etsy. So that's also something to keep in mind, is like, great to like, I know some people say look at bestsellers and try to like change things up a little bit. You hear a lot of that. In the beginning, I did do that as well, I have to admit. But then I started to think like, what if I was the first to do something? Wouldn't that be even more amazing? Like, what if you were the original behind that idea? So that's something to think about as well.
That's so smart. Yeah, the classic go to Everbee, find the bestseller, and then copy it. I can't do. I'm curious, where do you get your inspiration then if it's not on Etsy?
I do Pinterest. Pinterest, I love my Pinterest boards. I get inspiration like if it's online, but also if it's offline, I do get inspiration. I love to like get out in nature. That gives me inspiration, or visit a physical store like Pottery Barn, because I love interior design, anthropology. I like to just go into the store and like see the colors that are there, look at the textures, and kind of see if there's any common themes with like favorite colors of the season, or things like that, or like what type of graphics that's in Target right now or Walmart, and take notes on that. So that's something that I start to pay attention to more now versus like before. So those are things I take notes on.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, your shop, you are the first person on Etsy with a lot of your things. And it's obvious the only way to do that is by looking outside of Etsy. So I think you've done such a great job with that. I'm curious, there's a lot of opinions out there about strategies, about ads. What's your take on Etsy ads?
Ooh, Etsy ads. So in the beginning, I did spend a lot of money on ads. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos for print on demand, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So I was like, okay, I'll take this person's advice and just go with it. And so for print on demand specifically, I was spending like $20, $50 during the holidays, Black Friday, $100 just to see if it made a difference. So in some scenarios, I did lose money. In some scenarios, I made money, but I couldn't really find like a pattern like as to why a certain amount of spend would bring in more traffic. So for me now, the state of my business, I spend like $3 a day on 20 listings. So like, sometimes I don't always turn on ads either. And so I feel like for me personally now, I feel like it's not really necessary. I think it's more important to learn how to drive your own social media, like your own organic traffic, and have that audience that you build like a loyal following, where when you come out with something, they're like, okay, I want that, or I'll add that on my wish list. So I think that's more important, that you have that audience over ads, in my first experience. Yeah.
That's great. Are there any strategies that really worked for you? And you don't have to give away the entire strategy, but if, related to a certain thing, what would you say are the strategies that really worked for you? Maybe a couple.
Yeah, I would say connecting with your audience for sure. So for me, social media was definitely one of my weaknesses. So getting outside of my comfort zone with like Instagram, Facebook, and opening a TikTok account at the beginning of this year, which I said, no, I would not open a TikTok account, but I did. And getting yourself out of your comfort zone, I think that's really important, is willing to do the things that you didn't want to do yesterday because it's your baby, it's your business. And so I think getting outside of your comfort zone, connecting with your audience, and, kind of share what you're doing, asking for feedback, posting pictures of like this or that. I think that's really important. And just talking to your customers like they're regular people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that customer service piece, I think that's really helped your reviews. Your reviews are great. People love working with you. And it's like, you think, oh, well, I'm not saving lives. This isn't brain surgery, but you are making an impact. Even a message from you or receiving a package from you, you can affect someone's entire day and change their mindset about their whole day, no matter what. You don't know what's going on. Everyone's going through something, right? But if they open that package, it's like happy mail, right? They were looking forward to it all week. Maybe it's the one time they treated themselves this month and it was your shop. Yeah, you really are connecting with people in this way. It's awesome. So your current product categories in your shop, it's very different from print on demand exclusively. So why did you choose your current product categories?
My product mix is so different 6 months ago, to be honest, than it is today, because I'm constantly adding new products. Like, I'm trying to think of everything that I have in my shop now versus 6 months ago. But I think the reason why I have the product mix that I have now is because I've been taking a lot of my customer feedback. Sometimes I get messages from Etsy customers asking, can you have it in this color? Can you have it in this pattern? Will you ever have it, in this size? Things to think about, and I've taken that feedback and kind of worked on it over time and added that into my shop. And then also noticing like my ideal customer, what else would they like to shop for? What other solutions can I offer in their life to make their life more easier? Like as a mom, as a wife, like activities that they do outside of like being a mom, and really taking note of that.
Yeah.
That's really helped with my product mix and how I've been able to kind of sell different things, but make it cohesive.
Right. It's interesting. You don't just say, oh, we don't have that color. It tells you, okay, there might be 20 people behind that person not reaching out. And if they can't find it from somewhere else and they're going to the effort to ask me, that's an opportunity. So you've been really taking those as revenue opportunities and things to add into your shop, which is awesome. Curious, people love talking about niching down, picking a niche, right? Pick a niche and stick with it. Like, what has been your experience with picking a niche? Because I know like in your shop, you have some items for grandmas, you have some items for brides, you have some items for nurses. Like, it's such a mix. What's your thought about picking a niche?
I think in the beginning, that idea of picking a niche just felt overwhelming because I could never niche down. Like in my head, I was like, but I want to do this, but I want to do that. Like, why can't I do all of it, And listening to, many Etsy gurus and Etsy sellers, I was like, I don't know if I can really niche down. So I've done the opposite, to be honest. I feel like I've thrown that advice out the window in my experience. And I think I've managed to do that because of the aesthetics and the cohesive branding in my shop, just making it look like it belongs together with the color scheme that you use and the imagery and the graphic design, making sure that all matches if you have a certain vibe that you're gearing your customer towards. So I think for me, I guess in my opinion, it's not necessary to niche down. I feel like if you want to appeal to your customer and also have other customers that want to come to your shop, it's all about making it like cohesive.
Yes. Preach,
Yeah.
preach. I love it. It's so true. And you're able to serve so many more people now. And it opens up so many doors to add in new things. You're not pigeonholing yourself into, brides or something like that. I love that. And I think that's giving you flexibility to be more creative too, probably. Yeah. And I'm curious, what does the future of your Etsy shop look like?
So bright. I'm so excited. I feel like this is just the beginning. Like, I feel 6 months down the road, it could totally be like a different shop as well in terms of the product mixes that I'm expanding. For me, I'm constantly thinking about like, as my shop grows, like who else can I kind of like, I need to get help basically. I need a lot of help at this point. Who else can I hire to kind of help me like offload some of my tasks so that I continue to create and like innovate? So I think in the future of my shop, shop, continuing to listen to customer feedback and taking that in and just constantly improving my customer service, the quality of my products. And I'm just so excited. I feel like if you were to tell me when I quit my Etsy job that I'd be sitting here in front of you now, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe you. It's just so crazy. Like, I have to pinch myself sometimes and I get emotional just thinking about it because, for me, on a more personal level, my husband just lost his job like a month ago. And I just felt the weight like, okay, I'm so thankful I have my Etsy business. And I had quit my job 6 months ago too. And it's just like, wow, we just bought a house. Like, we have to make this work. It's like, you have everything to lose. I'm gonna get emotional. If you have everything to lose, it's like, all the cards are on the table. You just have to go for it every single day.
Yeah.
Put your blood, sweat, and tears in it. And it's just paid off. And I'm just so thankful. Like, for anyone that thinks it's Etsy, it's like, get rich quick. It's not. There's so many things. It's kind of like when you're training to become like the best of the best or an Olympian, you don't see all the hard work that they put behind the scene. You see it when they're on the track and the field. And I feel like a lot of business owners, we go through the same thing. And it could be a very like isolating and lonely journey. But when you get there, it's so rewarding because only you know the work that you put in.
Right. Yeah. The hours. I'm sure it was a relief to your husband too to like have this.
Yeah.
You've really put in the work. People think, what's the quick way to make what she did happen? And there's not a quick way. But, if you do the right strategies at the right times, you can get there faster for sure. For you, you hit a big milestone, it was over $22,000 in revenue, right? Your margin was actually, because people always say, oh, well, they're going to say, how much did she actually make on that? But your margin is at over 50%?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
For you, like, do you have a goal that you're aiming for with revenue? Have you thought about that?
Yeah. The beginning of this year when I had written down like my goals for like, the 12 months down the line and like my revenue or my forecast, the first few months I did kind of refer back to that, but I kind of threw it out the window because now I realize I was setting too low of a goal for myself. So I feel like now it's like probably double that. And it's hard. It's like really crazy to say that because the point that I reached last month was what I thought I was going to reach in December. So now I have to kind of go back to the drawing board and kind of think like, okay, this is much bigger than me now. And I kind of have to like think bigger.
Yeah. And for people who say, oh, the summer is terrible for Etsy, you're not going to get sales in the summer. Just wait for Q4. Like you've been growing constantly. And, at this trajectory, like I feel like you could easily double what you're doing easily. And even with a higher margin if you want to. So I think, super bright future for you and so excited. Now, is your husband coming on board or how is that going to work out?
Yeah, I feel like he's coming out. He's the biggest moral support. Like he was the one that I kind of brought up the idea, like, I'm thinking of quitting my job. What do you think of the idea? And although I was going to go through with my decision, I still wanted his feedback. He was totally for it. So I'm kind of easing him in with some of the tasks because I know it's a lot that we do behind the scenes. So I'm trying to have him like master simple tasks. I'm easing him to coming on board. So for sure.
That's awesome. That's so good. So Etsy has been in the news recently regarding like sellers strike, right? People are mad. What are your thoughts on that? What's your take?
Yeah, so I recently learned about that as well. And I think for me, like I could totally relate to how they're feeling. When I began my Etsy journey, I had my fair share of experiences when it came to just like wanting more open communication and transparency and like getting a hold of someone like reserved on my account, suspended listings, all of that. So I could totally understand it, like the frustration of, a new Etsy shop owner and, a more seasonal Etsy shop owner. And I think for me, it's important for any platform serving like sellers and buyers to have that strong form of communication and open transparency.
Yeah.
And so I do hope that Etsy continue to constantly improve the way that they communicate. I think that's much needed. I know there's a lot of campaigns out there for like making Etsy more human, and especially in the age of like AI being more present now, I also feel like it's so important to still have that human connection and that humanness and not to lose that. And that's why people go to Etsy, is because they love the handmade nature of Etsy. It's such a unique platform. So I think my take on is like, I totally feel for, all the people out there that's going through that, because I was, what's like so many situations I could mention. Yeah, it's definitely something that I think about.
But is it something where you think, I might leave the platform? Would you ever leave the platform?
I think at this point, not likely, but I do think that it's important to have other streams of income. Like if you're selling on Etsy, what other avenues can you sell your goods on as well. I think it's always good to have that strategy. But for me right now, I'm so new to Etsy and I feel like I'm going to be on it for a while. It has been like really good to me. So I'm very thankful for that. But I'm also, just to be smart, I also want to think about what the future looks like as well as I continue to grow. What would be the best for my business as I cross that bridge.
Yeah. Do you plan to go expand onto a website? Tell me more about like the plan to build
Yeah.
your brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have my own website one day because I feel like I do have graphic design ideas to have
Mhm.
my own branding. And I would love to have that section of my business just dedicated to like my branding. And I can do graphic design on that as well as a standalone website. So that would be awesome. And I know it's a lot of work too to kind of branch off and start your own website. So when I have a little bit more help, I feel like I would totally add that on my plate as well.
Awesome. And I am curious because they think it's an overnight success, but what does a typical day look like for you?
Typical day. So I wake up before 8 a.m. I used to wake up like at 5 a.m. when I had work, which is crazy. So now I get to just have a bit more time to myself in the morning. I'm up by 8, do what I need to do. And if I've been really busy with the increase in orders lately. So sometimes I'll get straight to packing for an hour or two, or at least pulling orders and, printing things out. And then I'll look at what my orders is the night before. And if I need to do a batch day where I focus on making one thing, I will. But in the beginning, I was just kind of like all over the place, doing embroidery, doing engraving, making everything. And so I think that's become increasingly difficult as I get more orders in. So now I think I'm packing like 2 to 4 hours a day. I'm packing stuff throughout the day, in the morning and at night, and doing customer service messages throughout the day and answering inboxes. So it's kind of like a mix of everything.
Mhm. Do you take a day off?
No. I think since I started my shop last year, I haven't taken a day off. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like work. I think, I enjoy it. Sometimes it does get overwhelming, but the stress, it just comes with having your own business. But I would take that any day over, just working for yourself and setting your own kind of having your own flexibility. I would take that over working for someone else any day. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you believe in balance or do you have balance then?
Right now, I don't have balance. And in the beginning, before having a business, I thought I could have balance if I opened my own business. But now that I actually have my own shop, I don't see how I can really have balance. Certain times in the day, I'll learn to have space for myself, like
Mm.
maybe breathing or like maybe a bit of yoga or meditation. And that keeps my mind at ease. So I think it's important to take a little break in between here and there just to eat and
Yeah.
like breathe a little bit, remember to eat.
Yeah.
But I think that balance does go out the window temporarily. And I'm okay with that because, like my life is so different now from where it was a year ago, but I'm okay with that. The pros like far outweigh the cons. So yeah, it's totally worth it though. Totally worth it.
Right. What do you
Yeah.
think the biggest sacrifice has been on your life to have this success?
I think I do miss out on certain important events. I get invited out to hang out with friends, and I still think it's important to stay in touch, but I feel like, and they totally understand. Thankfully, I have a very supportive, like, friends that understand what I'm doing. I think missing out on certain important life events has been hard as well, but I know that's part of it. And working longer hours has been another part. So those things, I feel like in the beginning, I was like, I don't know, but now I'm seeing everything kind of like materialize. I'm seeing all the pieces of the puzzle put together. Yeah, it's awesome.
And I think once you especially get some people in place, some employees, like I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a big difference maker. You'll get some of that time back
Yeah.
and you'll be putting more of your time into those higher leverage activities where your hourly wage is, sky high versus like packing. And
Yeah.
the thing is you'll be able to employ people, which is, I mean, that's America, right? Providing jobs, that's just, it feels so rewarding, especially as you go into Christmas. I cannot tell you, like when you provide jobs for someone who then what you paid them is providing Christmas for their family. Like that is such a good feeling. You're going to be able to be part of that. And that's, I don't know, I feel like that's what really business is all about, is not just having an impact on your customers, but, even bigger impact on the people who you can employ too. So yeah, I'm excited for
Can't
it.
wait for that.
Yeah. Well, Nee, it was such a pleasure to have you on. Do you have any last minute advice for Etsy sellers who maybe, are in a position where they've been at it 6 months and they are just ready to give up?
I think first thing that comes to mind is don't give up. You just never know if you hang in there a bit longer. It could be tomorrow that makes the biggest difference. Because I think the biggest thing is like regret for me is like wondering what if. Like if you finish before you're started, you're always gonna like kick yourself and wonder if you fully kick the whole door down. You know what I mean? Instead of like half foot in or like, half foot out, go through the whole door. And I feel like just take it one day at a time. I definitely understand how overwhelming it could be and feeling like everything you're doing, like nothing is working and you're not seeing like the results. And some people have a business for 1 year or 4 years and they're not seeing results, but they stick it through, so don't give up too early. Continue to learn, to constantly improve yourself, always watching like videos, learning or reading from someone else that has done it. It's important to surround yourself by others who have made it so that you can adopt their mindset as well. I think that's really important to like have that person that you could go to versus like doing it all by yourself and not knowing like, am I doing correctly? Like, am I doing the right thing? So seek someone who could be your accountability partner as well, keep you accountable. And that way it doesn't feel like, if you feel like giving up, you can go to them, like talk it through with that person. So I say, don't give up too soon. Don't give up too soon.
Great advice. Great advice. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on. And I cannot wait to see what happens after Q4. I would love to talk to you and do like a Q4 recap sometime and see how it all went down. But congratulations to your success. And if anyone is curious about how they can get started in, getting on the right path, definitely check out our free YouTube videos and reach out if you need any help.
I've gone from about $1,500 to $2,000 in revenue a month to currently, before the month's finished, $4,200 in revenue. I only joined multi-six-figure Etsy Blueprint about 4 weeks ago now.